Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another weekend review show here on Cluiche. With me, Seamus Brady, your host, and for this one, I'm joined by Liam White from the Limerick Voice. Liam, your first appearance on the show. Great to have you on, and obviously we picked a decent weekend. Obviously, of Offaly getting a huge win in Croke Park against the Dubs, so we have that dynamic right from the bat. But yeah, pleasure to have you on, man.
Thanks very much for having me. Looking forward to it. Yeah, it was. To be fair to you, the moment the whistle went, you were texting me saying this would be a good episode tomorrow. Now, so it was.
Yeah.
It was almost like it was written in the stars in a way. So, but no, I'm delighted to be on. Thanks for having me.
No worries, right? We got a lot to get through. You picked a bit of a baptism of fire because we've a lot of games to get through. Between all four codes, we'll dive right in, guys. If you're watching along there, the ticker at the bottom will tell you how we do things here. If you are new, just throw your comments in. Let me know what you think about the weekend's action or your highlights, your individual personal highlights. Because as I said, there was a lot of games from around the country. Starting off then in the Alliance Football League Division 1, round 4 in football. This was the game that most people, Liam, had their eyes on coming into this weekend. Two unbeaten teams, Galway and Donegal at Pearse Stadium. Donegal had started off their league campaign beating the last three All-Ireland champions. It couldn't really have made more of a statement start, and Michael Murphy had come back. This game definitely was going to be a test. They had the worst start I think I've ever seen anybody have in the first half. They made a game of it in the second half, but ultimately Galway were too strong, worthy winners. But I think the one thing that is sticking out from Galway's form, the form of Shane Walsh this year, looks terrifying. He looks as good as I've ever seen him look.
I remember a few weeks ago I said that Shane Walsh would thrive under these new rules, especially with the 2-point marker. And I mean, if you ever wanted a game that solidified that, it was this one. I mean, you say the worst start you've ever seen. I mean, it was 17-0 after 27 minutes. I don't know how much of a worse start you could possibly get. Like Donegal didn't have a single. They scored 1 point at by halftime, and their first score from play came in the 38th minute. Do you know?
Yeah.
Like, look, they were always going to be up against it when they had the wind against them in the first half, especially in Salt Hill. That is, with the wind there, it's absolutely dreadful for any opposition, but especially in football. Like, I felt so sorry for the Donegal goalkeeper. His kickouts were just coming back to him every single time in that first half. You know, it was, and even when they tried clearing the ball, I remember at one stage they tried to kick a free quickly, and it was just going backwards, and it ended up in a Galway hand 20 yards behind him. And I just thought, this is just not fair. Like, you know, it's nearly a cheat code. But no, you got to give credit to Galway. They were hungry. They were determined to prove that even last year's semi-final win wasn't a fluke either. And yeah, no, Shane Walsh, I mean, what more can you say about him? He was absolutely excellent. He tore them to shreds. Conor Flaherty was also unbelievable. Matthew Tierney was going well until his unfortunate red card. But apart from that, it really was just the perfect day for Galway.
Yeah, no, I would agree. For Donegal, and this will sound like a bit of a bizarre question, but this result definitely has, put a bit of cold water on the hype to some level. Like like if Donegal had gone away to Galway and beaten them, as convincingly as say they beat Dublin at home, or as convincingly as they beat Kerry away from home, I think a lot of people would have gone even higher on the hype level. But do you think maybe if they don't go 7 for 7 and win Division 1, that it might actually do them good heading into Championship?
I think if they were doing 7 for 7, it'd have been a small bit of a worry, because you don't want to show your full hand in the league.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to be like, look, it's great to win 7 out of 7, and you obviously go out to win every single game. But if you win 7 out of 7, you're going to be looking at it thinking, well, what's there to improve on? We've beaten all the top teams realistically in the country, bar obviously the 1 or 2 in Division 2 and whatever they are also up to that level. No, I think it's good in a way that you get a result like this and you get a performance like that. Look, albeit the weather played a huge factor, but even against the win, Galway played better than Donegal did. You know, they were able to defend a lot better. They got a couple of scores. Shane Walsh said it in his interview afterwards on TG4 that they knew they could get 3 or 4 scores, which is what they did. But no, I think Jim McGuinness would prefer the fact that now he can go and they can go work on stuff, and I suppose not having Michael Murphy there today, I mean, you could tell last week he had such a big impact. Now, I know it was his first game back. He's going to have a huge, I can't think of the word, but just that buzz. I'd go with buzz. I can't think of the word right now. Adrenaline. There we go. The adrenaline buzz. And he wasn't obviously there today, and he's a big miss for them. But at the same time, I mean, if you're winning the Ulster title last year, and like you said, they'd beaten the previous 3 All-Ireland winners, and they were going up against a team who've lost 2 of the last 3 All-Ireland finals. So look, every game is going to be a test for them. But I think from their perspective, winning 7 out of 7 might not be the best thing. I think for Jim McGuinness, he'll be somewhat happy that he's something to work on now in the next training session.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's good to not have the world expected of you when you come out of the league. But I think if you look at the league isn't a guarantee of what's going to happen in the championship. It never is. But what it is it's a showcasing of what that team is capable of, the levels that they're capable of getting to. And sometimes teams play their cards way too early. Like we saw Waterford do it in the hurling a couple of years ago, winning the league and falling off a cliff in the championship in the hurling side. Teams have done that in the league. They've played their cards too early and fallen apart when the championship has come around. And then we've had the vice versa. Like Tyrone looked bang average in the league a few years ago in 2021, and then they won that year's All-Ireland Championship. So it shows what teams are capable of. But also, when we're coming to Derry, we'll discuss this. When you look at Derry, it still is concerning when you see them fail to even compete, because in every league game you should be competing, and if you're not, it's a bad omen for what could come down the line. The reality is, going into this, I think Jim McGuinness, if they get their 3 wins and guarantee that they're going to stay up in Division 1, then I think his mind will turn to, okay, how do we prepare best for the championship? Because they have Derry right out of the gate. Like, that's not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination, even if Derry get relegated. Because look, they were poor against Dublin, but I still think there's a lot of fight in that Derry team, and I've seen it against Galway, and it will definitely be there for Donegal, make no mistake about it. But for Galway, they keep winning, and for Donegal, it's the first bump in the road, but I've no doubt that they will be back. This game, I think, was a lot more important in terms of consequences for the losers. Tyrone losing this game at home to Kerry 2-13 and Kerry's 3-13. David Clifford, of course, popping up with the hat-trick and really announcing himself back on the scene. It's a massive win for Kerry, because I think if they had lost this game, combined with the fact that they've lost both of their home games, they would have been in big trouble had they lost this one. So when their backs are against the wall, Kerry pulled out a huge win.
When Tyrone were 5 points up, I was legit thinking to myself, are we about to see Kerry relegated? Kerry looked awful throughout the game. Tyrone, well, not even awful, but Tyrone just looked so much sharper. They looked so much better. They looked so much more up for the fight, which is what you're always going to get when you go up to a tough northern team, But no, the age-old question in a way, where would Kerry be without David Clifford? Well, you've seen it there today, 3 goals. And I mean, 3 well-taken goals as well. They weren't the simplest of finishes either. Couple of points as well. And I mean, he could have had more. He missed 2 gilt-edge goal chances as well. So it just shows that, especially when he gets a bit of a break as well, because he's had a long break, come back firing. And I mean, if that's a sign of things to come from him and even from the likes of Paddy Clifford as well, then Kerry certainly won't be fearing anyone going into the year. And it is very odd. They're doing the opposite really of what you should be doing in the league. They're losing their home games, but they're winning their away games.
Yeah. It's crazy. Like, unbeaten on the road and then without a win at home. It is a bit bizarre. But for Clifford himself as well, you touched on it there. This is again with Shane Walsh. This is the first time in a long time, it feels like, where Galway and Kerry respectively aren't having to slowly build them back up to being ready, and they're not having to watch them with injuries and everything like that. And both of them looked incredible this weekend.
Yeah, if we could get another Kerry Galway final and another repeat of what they did in the 2020 finals, sure, wouldn't it be nice? Yeah. But no, and I mean, what sums him up nearly for me is he gets a black card on the 53rd minute, albeit it was late, but I could see both sides to it. Maybe I don't know what you think, but it was. If I was a Kerry fan, I'd be a bit pissed off about it.
I think you could argue both ways on it.
Yeah, exactly. But then he's back on the pitch. 2 minutes, I literally looked up and he was just in front of goal and he scored, and I thought he wasn't back on yet, and he that's how much of an impact he makes. He's back on the pitch and he gets a goal. But no, Kerry, there's still a lot of frailties at the back for them, though. That's the only problem. Now Dublin had a great comeback last week, but what was it, 15 points Kerry conceded in the second half? They had 2-13. Now Tyrone didn't score for the last 20 minutes of the game, so that's not a bad thing. But at the same time, Kerry did have the wind in the second half, so it'd be a lot harder for Tyrone to be trying to work through scores and shooting from distance, etc. But the 2-13 conceded by the 52nd minute. They conceded, was it 23 at home to Donegal, 1-24 to Derry. So there's a lot of things there that Jack O'Connor might want to fix at the back.
Yeah, no, I think so. I think Kerry still look like he can get at them at the back. They don't look as solid as they did in 2022. 2022 solving their defense was a massive part of what made them the best team in the country. Like 2022, they were the best, and I was expecting them to kick on and go on a bit of a run, 2 in a row, 3 in a row. I was thinking that's what could come here, and it just hasn't materialized. But this performance, it's a different win, and it's, you know, arguably more impressive, because it's one thing to get a win like Dublin did, for example, where everything you kick in the final quarter seems to be going over the bar. But this win is different. You're playing into a gale force wind, horrible conditions. There was a period there, I think Conor Gainey kicked a shot, and I've never seen wind that strong. It literally just blew it basically into the car park.
Yeah,
And
the big
so
stand.
to win a game like that, that's a different type of win, because you really grinded that out. And that tells me that for this year anyway, Kerry aren't going to go down. Do you think Tyrone will?
Well, Tyrone, I don't. Do you know what it is? If you'd said to me a week or two ago, who's going down, I would have said Mayo. But then after watching Tyrone play them last weekend, and after seeing the way Tyrone threw away the game today, and I mean, they were very poor against Armagh as well. I can't exactly sit here and say that they won't in a real confident matter. Really, you know, they're not really showing me the signs that they have enough to. And what's mad? A few weeks ago, I thought after the Derry game, I thought they could be potential All-Ireland contenders. You know, and they've all the run bys. I mean, any team that has the Canavans in it, you're like you're gonna have a very good day. But I don't know, after the Mayo performance and after the way they've kind of thrown the game away today, I know they're going up against top class players, but just for that level, things are looking very, very tough for them. I mean, and for the games that they have remaining as well, I wouldn't be shocked if it was Derry and Tyrone to go down.
Yeah, I definitely think Derry for me probably will. I had said Mayo. Mayo have shown a bit of fight though in the chaotic way that they usually do. And maybe I think it's between Tyrone and Mayo, and potentially Armagh for who goes down. Yeah. Jack Nulty here with I think a great point, if I'm not mistaking this. Jack says, still early and it's possible, however, scoring will be higher naturally compared to the past. So what's good score to conceded? They can outscore teams early in the year yet. I think what you're saying there, Jack, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that Kerry have the ability to outscore most of their opponents, especially in the good conditions come the summer. And I think nobody would doubt that, especially having seen the Cliffords in full flight before. Jared says here, Jared O'Grecon, a friend of the show, he says, I've been burned before for predicting relegation for Tyrone. So have I. I predicted them to go down last year in last place, and they managed to stay up. Now, this game felt massive as well. They leave with the spoils shared. Armagh 117, Mayo 117. This one at the Athletic Grounds. A battle and a draw. Do you think either team will be leaving happier than the other, or more pissed off than the other? Or?
I feel if you're 8 points up at half time and you end up drawing the game and needing to get a lay free to level it, in some ways you're not going to be too happy about it. And on the other hand, Kevin McStay seemed a lot more positive in his post-match interview, you know, because look, at the end of the day, they're going up to the All-Ireland champions. It's a difficult ground, the Athletic Grounds. And, you know, Mayo have not been playing the best recently. They really haven't adapted to these new rules as well as I actually thought they would. But I suppose, look, they made a good fight of it in the second half. David Neary and Matthew Ruan were very, very good for them, I thought. Yeah, and like, look, their last two games, it's a win and a draw, and especially against two tough Ulster sides. And look, they weren't pretty, but at the end of the day, I suppose for Mayo at this point, especially after the way they played against Galway, and I suppose the way they lost to Dublin as well, they were just looking at it saying, listen, we've got 3 points on the board now. We look forward to the games against Kerry. Yeah, I feel both sides will just say, look, we'll take the draw, but in terms of who'll be more pissed off, I reckon if you're Armagh, you'll be thinking we should not have let this slip, especially after being up by so much at half time.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I think, look, for Armagh, it's already been a crazy year. Like, it's actually been a mental year already for Armagh. They've had some great wins, some very worrying defeats, And that one is, it's just really, really confusing how they managed to let Mayo back in like that. Jack says still pretty good without himself, on par with everyone. However, if he was fit, I think they would have beat Donegal and Dublin. Oh, this is Clifford. Don't think Kerry are far off it. Galway, all in all, far more impressive. And Jer has a question here first. I'll throw this one to you, Liam. He says, would you say it was a point lost or gained for Mayo, considering both the gap they closed and the wide from Reap at the end?
Point gained. I think so. I'm trying to think. They've played Tyrone now. They've played Armagh. They've played Dublin, and they've played Galway.
But I said it's like the classic Mayo chaos. It's like they managed to dig themselves out of a hole, and somehow, if you're rooting for them to win, still have you tearing your hair out at the end because they still kicked it wide.
They always do. It's how they nearly got to every All-Ireland final for a few years when they were knocked out of Connacht. They were playing teams that you'd expect them to wipe the floor with, and all of a sudden they were in extra time, or they were last minute. There's nothing simple when it comes to Mayo. Whether they win a game, it's chaotic. When they lose a game, it's even more chaotic. But I think they still have a load of tough games to come, but I think they'd be more pleased now than they obviously would have been a couple of weeks ago. Look, the performances need to be better, and that's the thing as well. They are gaining points without playing well. So if they do, they're going to have to eventually have a game where they do play well. They're going to have to have a game where things go right for them on the day. Every team has one. So, and if that happens, then look, maybe we'll see the best Mayo then.
Yeah, I do think, look, there are big performances coming, but I personally think they are way further away than they were 5 years ago. Like, I really think, like, because it's one thing, we keep putting them in our heads as contenders, but they need a big year this year under Max Day, because the reality is they went in 2021 from getting to a final, which a lot of people expected them to win, but they didn't, to then 2022 and 2023 getting picked apart quite easily in All-Ireland quarterfinals. And then last year, they didn't even make it to the All-Ireland quarterfinals. So they need a big year from McStay, and they need a big year from this Mayo team. Sam McGowan here says, felt that Tyrone took the foot off the gas when the Kerry 2 were black carded and possibly should have went for the kill. I did notice that as well. I did know, very good point, Sam, that I felt like Tyrone weren't trying to finish Kerry off the way that they probably should have, especially with the wind against Kerry and everything. Like, it was really, really interesting to watch. We'll move then to the final game in Division 1, which was Dublin 320, Derry 212. Look, it's difficult to know what you can take from this one. The first half was competitive. I think it's worth saying as well, Dublin got 2 really soft goals. Like, really, really soft goals. The Derry goalkeeper, as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm wrong, someone in the comments, I don't even think he plays in goal for his club. So it was, why on earth was he playing in goal for Derry? I mean, you still have to be able to be a decent shot stopper to be in goal. Like Ethan Rafferty, say what you want about him being an outfield player, he's still a decent shot stopper. And 2 of the goals that he let in, the ones with the clip where it clipped the crossbar and went in, most goalkeepers in the country saved them, and they were real, as well as being slight boosts to Dublin, they were massively deflating for Derry. And look, they had a little bit of a fight back at the end with the goal that they bundled in, but the game was long gone by that point. And the one thing that I noticed, especially with the new rules, is once Dublin got the run on Derry, it was a beatdown very fast.
Yeah, Dublin managed to score a goal which was disallowed as well because Derry caught out. And I was down to the far end of the Cusick's. Was it in the square? I wasn't sure.
It was, yeah. It
was. Okay, because we had a few young kids giving out in front of us going, not in the square. But I was kind of raging because I enjoyed watching that because, in Offaly we have Paddy Donegan at the moment who's scoring worldies from coming up from the net.
Yeah.
But it's not going to happen for every goalkeeper. In a way, it was sort of nice to see a goalkeeper being punished, and especially when it's Dublin, when it's a counter-attack and they're moving at pace, it's sort of similar to Kerry. I love watching it. It's just fast. There's no thinking backwards. It's straightforward. And even though the goal didn't get given, it was sort of an indication that the tide was turning, because it was competitive, like I said. And then, look, I played in goals in soccer and Gaelic football. It can be difficult. It can be a lonely place. But even whatever about the first goal, the second goal, about over his head, that one.
Yeah. That one was a because I was sitting lower Hogan and I was sitting around a lot of Derry people, and like the minute that went in, you could just hear an audible like, oh Jesus, like
Yeah,
it was
ready.
such a deflating goal to concede. And when Derry had been making somewhat of progress, and then Lorcan O'Dell lashes in the third goal, and it's like, okay, wrap it up, this is done. If it's a UFC fight at that point, it's a TKO. The ref is stopping in because
Yeah,
it's we know how the game is going to go from that point on. Look, Derry got the goal and they got a couple of scores from Shane McGuigan, etc. And look, that could be crucial because the way that the league is shaping up, score difference could actually have the final say, especially if
yeah.
Derry can pick up some wins. We have a couple of comments flying in here, guys. Love to see it. Jer says here there was a major confusion among the crowd last night in Croke Park that Dublin could have one less player back after the Baker black card. There was a lot of booing for almost the rest of the game. Yes, I remember that. Did you notice that? Because it was really interesting. I was having a lot of conversations with the people around me, being like, what's everybody snapping about? And then I counted out on the pitch in front of me. Derry only had 2 players inside the half, but they had a black card.
Yeah.
So again, that's just another hill that people are gonna have to, get used to over time.
Yeah, even I didn't even like realize that it was new to me as well, and well, look, the referees are only learning these new rules as well, what was a mad one for me was I can't remember who it was that was fouled, but Dublin fouled the ball, and then just one of these new mad rules, handing the ball back to your marker and he could just run with it. And then
Yeah.
like me and my dad were just looking at him, we were just laughing. We were like, what's after happening? How was he like, why are they just allowed to just give the ball back to the opponent, say nothing, and your man's just allowed to run with it, And at that point you're nearly forcing a defender to try and pull him down or something, So I'm a total fan of that rule, but I suppose look, it's
But
early days.
that's where the 50 meters comes in, because I had the pleasure of doing an interview with Jim for TG Carr at the FRC rules launch, and I did ask him. I was like, would that not just make sure that a defender absolutely body someone if they're gonna they're gonna make sure that you're not just gonna get up and run, and then that's where the 50 meters comes in, that if you are obstructing, that the play will be moved up. And that's why we haven't seen it, because definitely that would encourage more like violent fouls, or more like in terms of harder hits, that like if you're going to hit him, like that type of tackles. And thankfully we haven't seen that too much. NIOB and TSB says, great performance by Dublin. It looks like a long night for Derry. They actually passed my car 11:30 just outside Newry. Hopefully the Bugler injury isn't bad. Yeah, Sean Bugler has been in sensational form in the league, and he was limping off. Certainly looked like a nasty bang, and I hope he's not too bad, because his form has been absolutely brilliant for Dublin throughout this entire campaign, and it would be a massive loss if he were to be out. But all in all, I think I'm fairly happy with where Dublin are at, of course, in the league right now. Yeah, I'm fairly happy with my predictions as well. I think Derry will probably go down, and Mayo might, and then I'll be able to, just smile at all the comments that tell you that you don't have a clue what you're on about. So that'll be fun. But we'll move then to Division 2's round 4. And in my opinion, by far, this is the result that jumps out. Meath 218, Roscommon 17 points in Port Talton. Meath have beaten a Roscommon side who are black belts in finishing top of Division 2 and going up to Division 1 at this stage. And for me, they have had now 4 games under Robbie Brennan. They haven't had a bad performance in any of the 4 games.
Yeah.
And their shooting has been really, really good. And they've been getting lots of shots off, lots of chances created in every single game. And now they've just beaten what is the best team in the division in Port Talton. And Meath look like they could definitely go up, which would be a massive achievement for Robbie Brennan's team.
Yeah, and at the start before the league started, I didn't think Meath. I thought Meath could have been like a Midland Division 2 team. I didn't think that they'd be at this stage in the race for promotion, just because I just think at times they can be very hot and cold when they want to be, and they have some terrific players. Should be, in my opinion, Meath should be a Division 1 team, but this is the step in the right direction. Seeing that result earlier, I was nearly having to check it twice, because sort of like maybe not like Donegal, but in a way like Donegal, you referenced 7 wins. I thought Roscommon were going to win 7 wins, 7 games, especially after they bet Monaghan. I just thought, yep, that's it. No one's beating them after that. But you got to give great credit to Meath. You know, Owen Frayne and Connor Duke were in top form again. Kieran Caulfield as well. You know, these are really, really talented players. And for me, to score 218 as well, you know, they were 4 points down at halftime as well. So it's not like, you know, it was just like they had to fight hard to win it. You know, it wasn't like it was an easy game or anything. They had to fight hard to win this game. And now, albeit the people will say the wind, but sure, Roscommon had to win the first half. They didn't take full advantage of it. So, but no, it's great credit to Meath for the win. Sean Coffey and Ronan Jones getting the goals as well. And yeah, they're sitting nicely now with Roscommon on 6 points, and it's shaping up to make Division 2 really, really interesting.
It certainly is. They're in a three-way tie at the top of the division. Monaghan, Meath, and Roscommon. What's nuts about division is then you've got another tier of Cork, Louth, and Cavan all on 4 points. Then you've got Down, who are actually currently in the relegation zone on 2 points, and Westmeath then last. And I think Westmeath probably will go down on 0 points there at the bottom of the table. But Westmeath even have been competitive in every single one of their games. It's a really, really strong Division 2, as always. I think this game as well is pretty significant. Monaghan 316, Cork 115 in Inniskeen. Monaghan keep up their win rate. They are now also on 6 points, as I was saying, 3 wins out of 4. And this one is probably the most emphatic out of the lot because they're taking out a team in Cork who a lot of people were starting to pick as a potential dark horse for promotion themselves.
And we got to feel for our good friend Matthew Hurley, who had to travel up to watch it. I got to feel so sorry for him. I mean, he went to Down and he's gone to Monaghan. He's doing the rounds, and but
serious mileage.
Yeah, like I'm someone who believes that you need to watch a game in order to properly judge it. But just from what I've been reading and seeing, even the score updates on Scorpio the last 24 hours, it was completely one-sided. Cork just were not at the races at the back or up front. Even Chris Oak-Jones didn't have his best game, you know, and he's been scoring goals for fun. He's been scored more goals than most counties. Like Monaghan were leading 3-4 to 3 points at one stage. They were leading 3-11 to 8 points with 52 minutes gone. And look, Cork made a bit of a battle of it in the end to make the scoreline look a bit more respectable. But I think the most ardent Cork supporters would probably say that the performance wasn't good enough. You know, like when you're letting Rory Began just do what he wants from the goals as well, it's never a good sign either. You know, so for Cork, they were one of the ones who I thought maybe could have finished maybe third. You know, maybe could have pushed for, especially after the way they bet Meath. I was actually deeply impressed with them, you know, and the way they dug themselves out of that. I felt they were unlucky against Down, but then at the same time, against Westmeath, scoring 318 is great, but conceding 317 is not great. So if you're, look, Westmeath aren't a bad team, but if you're conceding 317 to Westmeath, then Monaghan will smell blood.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's always in the performance. You can't look at just the result and say, well, win's a win. Like, you have to be like, okay, now the equation, like, do you know what I mean? If I'm doing maths, I'm not great at maths, but if I just shout out the right answer and I had no idea how I got it, I'm not always just going to get there in the end. Couple more comments in here. One from Matthew himself. He says, difficult day for Cork, but we bossed midfield. Goals killed it. Have to win against Roscommon now. And that is the most difficult task that you can have in the division. Jay here says, in the post-match, Monaghan manager pointed out that it was only Monaghan's third ever victory. Monaghan only third ever victory over Cork in competitive action. Yeah, absolutely locked up the software in my brain there, Jay, for a second. To Monaghan over Monaghan. We'll move on then to Louth's win. Louth 217 down 22 points at the Gaelic Grounds in Drogheda. This is a big win for County Louth because they had suffered a couple of setbacks, obviously the most notably losing to Cavan the way that they did. To beat Down, who have shown a lot of flair in this league, even in their defeats, is a really, really impressive victory. And for Ger Brennan's side, like, that's a real statement to get over the line in this one.
Yeah, and I'm delighted for Louth because I like the way they play football. They've been competitive, even again, they've been the most competitive side to Dublin we've had in the Leinster Championship over the last number of years. Even seeing them in person a couple of years ago when they bet us in the Leinster semi-final, just some of the players that they have at their disposal, you know, the likes of Sam Mulroy and Conor Grimes was playing and all that. They're a joy to watch. I love watching them play. And I mean, Sam Mulroy hit 10 points again today. You know, he's just, like, he would start for most teams across the country. He's terrific, you know, from both place balls and from play. And yeah, no, look, it's a great win for Louth, especially after, I mean, it was a very poor defeat to Cavan. You know, there's no point sugarcoating that. And I thought I thought Louth would have been in a position at this stage where they could have had even 3 wins out of 4 rather than 2 wins out of 4.
Yeah.
I thought they would have been maybe in Meath's position or possibly even Monaghan's position, but they're still not in a bad position. They've won the game. That's the main thing. They can worry about the performance next week. Yeah, no, it's great to win at home as well. And like you said, against a downside who even in their defeats have looked promising. And they've shown a lot of fight as well, especially in the way that they did beat Cork at home. And yeah, listen, it's great for them, and it's Division 2. Like it's an extremely competitive division. And like the wins that Louth have had have not been easy, especially against the teams of Down and Westmeath, who the results aren't going their ways, but they're all performing fierce well.
Yeah, no, certainly. And then Louth as well, the thing that they've always shown, regardless, is they've always just shown continuous progress. And I think a lot of people were writing them off when the new rules came along. I think a lot of people were saying, that's it, can't play defensive football anymore now, but back down to Division 3 you go. And there was that kind of attitude. Louth have shown, especially with a win like this, that they are capable of, evolving with the rules way better than most people would have thought. I backed just Jared Brennan. I really liked the way that he was, and the work rate and the commitment to this team is unquestioned.
Yeah.
And I did pick them to pip into the promotion places. I don't think that's going to happen now, but I still think that they will survive relegation. I don't think that they'll go down. I do think, unfortunately, that Westmeath will go down. I always liked Westmeath, but I think this year, even though they're putting up big tallies, like 21 points again is nothing to be sniffed at. But without Heslin, without O'Toole, without Desi Dolan, it was always going to be difficult. And they have put in 4 good performances, but lost all 4 games. And Cavan winning this game is crucial. They're up to 4 points. They have a very good chance at surviving now. What did you make of this?
The moment Desi Dolan left, I was a small bit worried for Westmeath, because even in the games where they have lost over the last number of years, they've been extremely competitive, and even like they shouldn't have lost to Derry last year. They drew it to Tyrone a couple of years ago. Westmeath are not a bad side in the slightest. And I mean, again, I was writing down like even notes earlier, and I was saying, it's a great win for Westmeath because they were 17-5 up at half time. Now I know maybe Cavan had a strong win in the second half, but I was just thinking there's no way Cavan come back from that. Surely Westmeath have enough to grind this one out. And then I check it and there's like a point in it with like 15-20 minutes gone. I'm there thinking, what? Like what here? That's Division 2. It will eat you up and spit you out, and look, getting 2 red cards doesn't help you either. That's never going to help you in any case. And no, for Cavan, but for Cavan it's great. It shows that they have a lot of fight in them. And I mean, they're hitting 122 themselves, and they hit 350 Loud. I know they lost them on him, but they hit 20 points. They're putting up big score lines as well. So I can only imagine it was a very entertaining game, and certainly nerve-wracking if you were from either one of these counties. But yeah, no, you got to give massive credit to Cavan, and especially I didn't give Cavan much hope before the start of the season. And look, they might still go down. There's no guarantee that this is going to change things anytime soon. But I suppose for Cavan, a win could do so much. Cavan, we've seen in the past, they've won the Ulster title in 2020. They've been in Division 1 before. They're just one of those counties where they could be having one day where they're getting battered, but then the next day they're just beating Monaghan like they usually do.
Yeah. No, they're one of those teams that you literally never, ever, ever know what you're going to get from them. And they're a classic pioneer of that. I think Mayo are quite similar as well. I feel like Cavan and Mayo are the prime examples, in my opinion, of like playing to the level of the team that you're playing against. Like Mayo, as you said, Mayo 2017 is a perfect example of that. Taken to extra time by, a Cork team that were in Division 3 at the time, a Derry team that were in Division 3 at the time, and then scrape through the qualifiers and then go on to take Dublin to the inch of their lives in the All-Ireland final. Like, it was just, you never knew what you were going to get with them. And to be honest, I kind of love teams like that because they're always quite exciting. Nerb here says, looks like Inniskeen had a double header as the Monaghan Hurlers were apparently on at 2 p.m. in Inniskeen. That's stuff we love to see. I love a good double header, I can't lie. The Kilkenny Junior says, Meath results may be the start of something serious for me. It's such a huge football county. They've been away from the cutting edge for too long. I absolutely agree. As a Dublin fan, I miss them. Like, I hear my dad talking about the Dublin Meath games in the 90s, and I haven't really got to experience it. I got to go to a couple in 2007, but I was only 6 years old. Didn't exactly get to soak it all up. 2010 is my last. I'd say actually 2013 is my last memory of a Dublin Meath game where I was a bit worried at halftime. I remember Eamon Wallace kicking 2 points to put Meath in at halftime leading, and I remember being like, okay, we got a game here now. And then we came out in the second half and won it, and since then it's never been a contest, and I really want it to be a contest again. Matthew has the maddest stat of the show here, actually. Gaelic stats when coming in with this one. In Division 2, if Cork, Louth, Cavan and Westmeath, home teams, all win next weekend, all the top 6 will be on 6 points. I mean, has that ever happened in the Allianz Leagues before? I really wouldn't think so.
I wouldn't think so either. I'm bad for stats, but even that would just be mental. I mean, do you know what it is? That would just be brilliant though, because it would nearly make it. It would have a championship feel to it then, I think, because every team would just be like, it'd be like that Spider-Man meme. Everyone's just looking at each other. No, but no,
be like in poker when they all go all in. It's just all on this one.
But no, do you know what? I sort of hope that does happen now next weekend, because that would just make for brilliant viewership for the final 2 rounds. But
yeah, it certainly would. It would mean no dead rubbers at all. Every game would mean something.
And that's what you want for the league. Do you know, I mean, look, the league it can drag at times, but at the same time, you know, it is, at the end of the day, you want to try and win games. You want to build lads up, and what better way than for chaotic games like this?
Certainly. We're going to move a little bit quicker now because we still have a lot to get through. The Allianz Football League Division 3, there was only 3 games, so I'm going to put these up in a stitch together. Obviously, Sligo and Clare was postponed, just in case you're wondering. If we don't talk about that one, Kildare beat Laois 21 points to 9. They continue to thrive in Division 3 under Brian Flanagan. Antrim battered Leitrim, who continue to fall off a cliff. I don't know what has happened. Antrim 4-16, Leitrim 1-11 at Corrigan Park. And then Fermanagh beat Offaly 1-13 to 3-6 by 1 point. That was very, very narrow defeat for Offaly. Those 3 games, what you make of Offaly in the football? I mean, still going well, even though like Fermanagh are a tricky team and have beaten a lot of very, very good teams. That's definitely not one to be like that disappointed in. But what you make of those 3 games?
Well, I was happier with the second half than I was with the first half. The first half we scored 1-1 by half time, you know, and look, the weather was very poor up there again, like it was across the whole country. But Fermanagh just completely took over. Like it started off, we both had a goal each after 5 minutes. And I was thinking, okay, this is interesting. But then you look 15 minutes later and it's like 1-8 to 1-1, and you're like, oh, okay, well that game's done. But then look, second half we fought back fierce well. Cormac Egan got a goal. I believe Dinheim got the other goal as well. I think it was a bundle up after a penalty. And look, we nearly crawled it back. We kept going to the end. We got it back to a point at one stage towards the end. But look, Fermanagh's never an easy game, you know, especially away from home as well. We've had tough battles with them over the years, especially in O'Connor Park particularly as well. And look, there was some controversial way the game as well. I think was it Mickey Hart was saying after the game about not being given a stone wall free at the end, and frustration when you're beaten by bad decisions rather than losing to the better team. Look, I wasn't at the game, so I can't judge. But it's look, we're still in a good position. We've Leitrim up next, so look, hopefully we'll pick up another win there. But I'm not taking anything for granted because it is Offaly at the end of the day. We're a bit like Mayo, only maybe a small bit less chaotic, but we can be chaotic when we want to be. But Kildare after that, and I suppose it could come down to the final day with Fermanagh, us and Clare potentially looking for promotion.
Yeah, well, I look at it here and I say Clare are on 4 points. Obviously, they have the game in hand on you. They would have played Sligo this weekend were it not postponed. That's going to be a difficult game. Sligo are in a desperate position where they need points. They're on 0 points in the bottom 2 at Leitrim. They need a win. So they're going to give it everything they have in that one to get a win. So Clare might slip up in that one. I would make them favourites given their form, but they might slip up in that one. Offaly currently sitting on 6 points. Like, if there's a big win in there for Offaly, definitely they could go up, which would be a brilliant achievement for Mickey Hart and Declan Kelly, obviously in there together. Jer here says about Division 2, sounds like the Leinster round robin in 2019. Yes, of course. Dublin managed to get out, so we have a good omen, and we won't talk about what happened in the rest of that year. But the Allianz Football League, then Division 4, Wexford and Wicklow was the game that was postponed, which was unfortunate. This is the one that I think had the most riding on it out of this round of fixtures. But the other 3 games are Longford 2-11, Waterford 1-12 in Pearse Park, Carlow 13 points, Limerick won 17 in Netwatch Cullen Park, and London pipped Tipperary in Semple Stadium 212 to 17 points. Hammer blow there for Tip. So as the table currently stands, Wexford are top on 6 with a game in hand. They're definitely going up in my opinion. Limerick and Tip are both level on 5. Then you've got Wicklow and London both on 4, Carlow on 3, Longford on 3, and Waterford at the bottom with 4 defeats from their 4 games. Out of those 3 results, what are your kind of main takeaways now with the division?
Well, I think London deserve a lot of credit for 2 wins in 4 games. Like
they're dark horse to go up now.
They are, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they went up. They're doing a lot of good work. I mean, they destroyed us last year. The less said about that, the better. But no, they've put in some good performances. They're putting in a lot of good work. A lot of good clubs up there as well. And yeah, look, you got to give mad respect to them. For Tipperary, it's a very disappointing result. I don't know what's gone wrong with Tipperary in football. They won the Munster title 5 years ago, but yeah, no, certainly not one that they'll want to be looking back on with fond memories. And for Limerick, I expected them to beat Carlow. Maybe not by 7 points. I thought it might have been a bit tighter on the scoreline, but I suppose, look, Limerick and Wexford for me are the 2 teams that will go up in the end. Wicklow will certainly push it close, but in my opinion, I think Limerick and Wexford will certainly go up in my opinion anyway.
Yeah, no, Wexford definitely under John Hegarty. John Hegarty's come in and just settled them down a bit. They were woefully inconsistent. Like they'd be the type that would beat whoever won the division, but then lose to Waterford or Tip or London, who were down the bottom, and that would obviously cost them going up. But last season, the only team that they lost to were Wicklow and Sligo, who did get promoted. There was an element that they were more consistent, and they certainly are showing it again this season. We're going to switch codes then, switch from the football to the hurling. We're moving over to the Allianz Hurling Leagues, Division 1A. One more comment in here from Jerry says, when's the last time London won a hurling and football fixture in the same weekend? Who knows? I think that would be a very, very difficult stat to find that out. I don't even think Matthew would be able to get that one. That's a long, long, hard search to find that. But this game is massively important for Wexford. Beating Clare 123 to 117, beating the All-Ireland champions. I know it's the league, but beating the All-Ireland champions away at Cusack Park in Ennis when you yourselves are off the back of a really, really bad defeat. It's a very, very important win for Keith Rossiter, for Wexford, even though it's a league, just as a morale booster.
Yeah, and I was covering this game earlier for Scorpio, so I was listening to it on the radio, and Clare, there was then at the end that Brian Lohan just had a confused look on his face, and as did most of the Clare supporters were bemused by what they were watching, and it sort of felt like that from my perspective as well. Not that I said that Wexford would even get hammered or anything, but I didn't expect Wexford to go and beat Clare, especially by 6 points. Really, the game was over with a couple of minutes to go as well. And look, for Clare, they've got a couple of players back. Adam Hogan's back. John Conlon got some minutes under his belt, which is good. Tony Kelly, I mean, he had a goal within the first 60 seconds of the game. I saw one of his points there on TikTok just a couple of minutes ago over his shoulder. It's Tony Kelly, so it's a natural day for him. He finished with 1-4, 1-5. He finished with in the end. Lee Chin returning was massive for Wexford. Everyone was wondering if he'd come back, when he'd come back, and how much of an impact he'd make. He was barking out orders. He was, took over 1 or 2 free duties. And he was just a big physical presence. He's built like a WWE wrestler, but he's fast, he's quick, and he's a great striker of the ball as well. Keane Byrne was consistent with his frees as well on a very difficult day for free takers as well. Richie Lawler had a fantastic game. So, yeah, and look, Keane Byrne got sent off as well. I can't remember what it was for or what they said it was, but that'd be the only like negative note. But other than that, for Wexford, it's a massive win. And for Clare, they're going to start being a small bit worried now that relegation is 100% on the cards, And look, Wexford might still go down. They still have a load of tough games to come. But for Clare, I think I'd say they'd be looking at the game against Limerick next weekend now, especially in the Gaelic grounds. And with Limerick having their game against Kilkenny postponed today, which I was meant to be at, they'll be thinking, Jesus, they've had a full week or 2 to rest, and we're after a demoralising defeat. It could be a very tough few weeks for them.
It certainly could. Jer here says as well, Jer, proud Clareman, so interested to get his thoughts on this game. He said, Lohan named the team that wanted to win. Can't explain the lack of energy. The forwards were static, weren't even doing runs. It may not be panic stations, but it is a worry. Now, I do think, look, it's a sign of what you're capable of. If Clare are capable of dropping the ball like that, it is definitely something that needs to be taken note of. But again, I wouldn't be too worried about it. They're still one of the best teams in the country. They're still the All-Ireland champions. They're still capable of reaching that level. But again, we look towards the other side. We look at a team that is gradually, just bit by bit, it seems, rebuilding the confidence after they had it shook to the core last year. Tipperary 222, Cork 121. To go back to Semple Stadium against Cork, where they got torn to shreds last year, and to beat Cork by 4 points, that will mean more to Tipperary than I think people are admitting. The fact that they went back to the scene of the crime, went back to where Cork absolutely murdered them, and managed to get a win against the same outfit with a lot of the Cork lads there. Like Fitzgibbon was there, a lot of the big players were there, and to beat them, that's big for Liam Cahill's team. It really is.
Fondly, I remember that day. It's just the day that Arsenal lost the league to City. So it was a bad day for me and Tip fans. But no, yeah. I actually thought Tipperary would win during the week, especially when I heard that Mark Coleman was going to be out. Obviously, Paul Power was going to be out. Declan Dalton was out. I said they'd win by 5. They won by 4, so that's annoying. But I knew that they'd win. I don't know what kind of set it, but I've been impressed with a load of their players recently, particularly the likes of Gerard O'Connor, who, I've watched very closely playing for UL and Fitzgibbon, and yeah, like I watched him up close against Mary I, and I just thought he's terrific. He's big, he's strong, he's a great long range strike on him. Jake Morris is playing as well as he has for a good number of years. He seems to really suit the centre forward role. Alan Tynan had a very good game as well. And Darren McCarthy is just a terrific player. He's great from place ball, but he's also brilliant. He's just a brilliant player in general. The way he set up the goal for Sean Keneally against Limerick, he got 5. I think it was 5 points from play he got here. Just overall for Tipperary, it was really, really good. And look, Cork had some good performers as well. I mean, Darren Fitzgibbon, I'm a huge fan of his. Like, if there was a transfer market in the morning and we could take a player from Cork, I'd take him. He's got a great engine on him. He's a great striker of the ball. With Patrick Horgan not taking, frees at the moment, and he's not starting, he's settling in with the free duty very, very well. The likes of Diarmuid Healy's playing, Jack Cahill's playing, Michael Mullins and Robbie Coher were given first starts, which is only a positive for them. I still think Cork have made 1 or 2 errors though with their squad selection. I think Jack Leahy not being in the panel is a massive, massive loss. I think he's a terrific player. And even I wanted to ask yourself, Patrick Horgan coming on and kind of playing games over some of the younger fellas. I don't know if I'm a fan. No, nothing against Horgan. He's one of the greatest players to ever live and one of Cork's greatest ever players. But even against Limerick, when he was brought on ahead of some of the younger lads like Robbie Coher, I was kind of just like, is this the best move? Does he need to be playing a game like this when you could be trying to breed in a bunch of young lads?
It's a good point. Definitely what that tells me is Cork are going all out for the All-Ireland from the get-go. That they're going, like, not, we don't care about the future for this year. We know that if you were to replay that All-Ireland final, and Jer might disagree with me if you're still watching there, but if you were to replay that All-Ireland final 10 times, Cork would win it 5 times, Clare would win it 5 times. They were so evenly matched. There was literally a hair's breadth between the two of them. And genuinely, like, I just keep going back. That shot that Robbie O'Flynn had at the end that was saved by Quilligan, that goes in, Cork win. And that's how close the margins were. So, Jeff, definitely Cork know they have what it takes to win an All-Ireland. And I think Pat Ryan would be saying, look, we got that close. Let's not tweak too much. We know we're good enough.
Yeah.
Let's go for it now from the get-go. Let's go out with bad intentions and go and win this. And look, they have to manage their squad, because the reality is I've seen Cork, especially last year, come out a lot expected of them, fell on their face immediately with that loss to Waterford and put themselves really in a sticky position that they literally hung on by their fingernails to being in the championship. And it was for the better that they stayed in the championship, because their fans really lit up the championship, with the game in Semple Stadium and Croker and everything like that. But Jer has a comment in here. He says, am I getting the feeling of Liam Cahill League syndrome? Who knows? Who knows? It definitely is showing some similar traits. And then, of course, Kilkenny versus Limerick, unfortunately, was postponed. That was supposed to be on TG Card today. I was really looking forward to that one. But we'll move then to what a lot of people have been looking forward to us talking about. Dublin 123, Offaly 27 points in Croke Park. We were both there for this one on opposite sides of the stadium. As we figured out, I was Hogan, you were Cusick. What did you make of this one? I mean, it's a massive, massive win for Offaly because just in terms, again, going back to my point of showing what the team is capable of. And I was saying, if I were Offaly, I'd be looking up at Dublin, Wexford, and saying, we can catch one of these. Yeah. And now you've beaten Dublin in Croke Park in a game where Dublin had most of the big guns there. Like, it wasn't a Dublin team where you're like, oh, well, you know, Sean Curry's going to come back, Donald Burke's going to come back. You know, that's more or less what Dublin are going to be coming with in the championship. So to beat them in Croker when you still have Adam Screeney to come back must boost the confidence.
Yeah, I remember I was in Croke Park in 2018 when we bet you in the league, but you had basically a third, fourth string team out, you know, and a lot of us were getting a bit too ahead of ourselves after that game, and then we just fell flat on our face, and you ended up relegating us to the Joe McDonagh without a fuss, you know. But this one kind of felt a bit different. I feel you had a lot stronger team out, but I feel we had a lot stronger team out as well. And like, look, we still have a lot of injury problems as well. Like you said, Adam won't be back for a while, and Ben Keneally's still out injured. Owen Cahill's out injured. Keelan Kiley was only playing his first league game yesterday since injury. Turgainen made his debut, and he was injured as well during Kilcormac Lions Leinster Championship campaign. So yeah, no, for me, buzzing. Delighted with the win. You know, some people will say, like, you know, I think you even said it to me a couple of weeks ago on one of the comments. You know, would I rather take a year at Division 1B or go straight up to Division 1A? In a way, you would maybe prefer to stay in 1B to, you know, build teams up and build lads in, and, you know, try and make sure that you've taken care of a couple of teams before you're riding off to be taking on the likes of Corks or Kilkennys or Tipperary's or Limericks or Clare's. But for me, I want to be playing the best every single year. And in my opinion, if that means going up next year, then so be it. We got to learn at some stage. And a lot of these young lads as well, they don't have fear. You know, the likes of Cahill King, the likes of Donald Shirley, James Mahons, you know, look, like, they don't have fear whatsoever playing big teams because they've played big teams over the last number of years for the Offaly under-20s.
They've grown up winning though. They've grown up winning and getting to finals and that confidence. Like, we've seen it time and time again with Donegal, and the football is a great example. Like, that generation of Michael Murphy and Paddy McBrearty, like, they come through and they're like sticking their chest out. Yeah, we win Ulster titles. This is what we do.
Yeah.
And already you can see the effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And especially for, like, even some of the likes of Dan Ravenhill to step up and take a free from 90, 100 yards out to win a game, like, you know. And look, Conor Burke's red card, and he was having a great game before that, you know, 3 very good points. For Whiteley got a couple of points. I mean, Donald Burke was just doing what he does in Croke Park. He was just finding space and putting it over, and it was nearly looking like he was tapping it over, and he still had loads of yards left on them half the time. But yeah, no, for the likes of Ravenhill to step up, take, you know, a long range free like that when the game is in the melting pot. And Brian Dignan stepped up massively in the last couple of minutes as well. Look, I'll be honest, the first half I wasn't too happy. I thought we were, you know, standing off you a bit too much. You know, we were giving you a bit too much space. And I mean, if Diarmuid O'Dulong's shot, you know, wasn't stopped on the line by Kieran Burke, that goes into the net. It's a 7-point game at half time. It's nearly game over, and you're nearly fearing the worst at that point. But look, we stuck in there. When Brian Hayes scored the goal, I thought that was game over, but I was really happy with the way we responded. And like, I'd have been happy enough with the draw. I was happy enough with how we performed anyway, you know, because like I've been to plenty of games where we've been hammered, we've been destroyed, we've been pumped by the likes of Yee and Wexford and Kilkenny and Galway over the years. You know, even like the likes of Westmeath and Antrim and all them, I've seen them all batter us. So to go to Croke Park and against a very, very good Dublin team, and you know, I like your manager, Niall O'Callaghan. I really like him, and he said it after the game. You know, he said, "Look, better team won. Nothing we can do about that. We had chances to win the game, and we didn't take them. But you know, we have things to work on. You know, he's straightforward. He's not looking for excuses or anything like that. But we know ourselves that we can't just win this game now and then, you know, just say, right, screw this. You know, but we've done what we've wanted to do. We've to now go and try and beat Westmeath, which is not going to be simple either, because look, they don't like us, we don't like them. So they're not going to want to see us go up to Division 1A. And then it's another tough game against Waterford, you know, and judging by the result today, they certainly will be in no mood to be letting us beat them.
Certainly, and I think for O'Callaghan as well, it's a bit of a reality check for the work that needs to be done. Like, I mean, like I was saying on the pod to Aaron, especially when we were doing a season preview for Dublin, I was like, it does remind me a lot of when Matty Kenny came in and he was Coola boss, and Coola had won, the All Ireland Club Championship back to back. Actually, they'd won 2 years in a row,
Yeah.
and he came in and kind of built the team around the Coola lads like Sean Moore and Jake Malone, and we kind of went one step forward, one step back. We didn't really make that much progress under Matty Kenny. And look, no question about it, the Nafina should be the team that we build the spine around. Like, we should go, now that O'Donnell's gone, it should be Conor McHugh, in my opinion, at fullback. We should be seeing if Liam Rush fancies another crack at senior for another year. We should be putting Donald Burke at centre forward and the Currys in there and everything. And then, plugging, the rest of the players and around them, the Chris Crummies, the Conor Burks, everything like that. And we have a good team, but I just want to smash through that glass ceiling this season with Niall O'Callaghan, or just in the next couple of years. I just want to have a season where it doesn't end in the quarterfinals, where we get to the semi-final, or we win Leinster, something like that. The Kilkenny Junior here, he says, great win for Offaly, building some decent momentum. Dan Ravenhill's long-range winner was an incredible strike, close to 120 metres out. It was an absolutely unbelievable free. And he follows it up here, said, should Leinster Hurling get more credit for the quality that's around at the moment? Aside from Kilkenny and Galway, decent results for Wexford, Dublin, Offaly, Carlow, Laois, Westmeath, all being competitive. I definitely think Leinster Hurling does get looked down on a fair bit, and I think a couple of times we've seen examples down to the last few years where, we've had, Kilkenny beat, everyone really but Limerick in the All-Ireland semi-final, and definitely it was usually Kilkenny going into those games were underdogs. So I do think, look, definitely Kilkenny and Galway, I'd say over the last 2 years have kind of been the only two in Leinster that can mix it with the Munster teams. But I definitely think the standard is improving. I have no doubt about that. The standard is improving. Jer says here, he says, imagine if Carlow and Offaly are in a higher tier than Clare next season, and says as well, Dublin versus Waterford next weekend is crucial. A draw and neither are going up. If there is a loser, that county will be staying in 1B. That's going to be a huge game, because Waterford obviously got their win 223 to 11 points. They beat Antrim in Corrigan Park for Davy Fitz. A lot of work to be done, and Laois and Carlow, of course, was postponed. But for Davy, it's been a terrible start in the Antrim job.
I wasn't impressed with Antrim playing against us in O'Connor Park, and I wasn't impressed with them today, I'll be honest. And judging what I read from the Dublin game, they weren't good in that either. So he's a lot of work cut out for him. Now, look, Waterford were coming into this game with a bit of a chip on their shoulder. The last away game was a shock defeat to Carlow, so they certainly wouldn't have wanted another repeat of that. And especially, I'd say in a way now, after seeing us beating you last night, they were probably on high alert going, okay, we can't be another one of those. We can't be another one of those shock defeats. Look, they got players back today. Irla Daly and Stephen Bennett were back, and they were class as you'd usually expect from them. Desi Hutchinson was back; he had a great game. Paul Fitzgerald, they had some of their more bigger guns back, and look, I had the game on for a couple of minutes, and then I had to turn it off, and I switched on the Tyrone Kerry game instead, just because it was just over. There was no excitement really to it. Like, even after 60 seconds, it was, or I think it was 120 seconds, it was 1-2 to no score. It was, tell kind of straight away, you're like, okay, this is not going to be one of those Corrigan Park, horror stories that we've seen over the last couple of years for certain teams. But no, for Waterford, look, it's a good win. And like you said, that game against Dublin next weekend is absolutely massive. And I'll be firmly supporting Dublin, because if you beat Waterford, we beat Westmeath, then sure, the two of us can go up together. It'll be all right. Once that happens, but no, it will be a very interesting game. It'll be certainly one I'll be keeping a close eye on, anyways. And it could be real hell for leather, like you two have certainly pulled off over the last couple of years in the league.
Certainly. And then Jay saying here, Antrim ran Waterford close in Corrigan Park in previous years. Davy said he wanted to improve Antrim's away form, whereas their home form is slipping. And then NIRB at TSB says, looks like my comment about Antrim at the start of the year might come true when I said Antrim will get relegated in both the league and Leinster. Look, the reality is Davy's trajectory usually, it's going to sound harsh, but I feel like he's a similar trajectory to Jose Mourinho. Like, he comes in, gets a bounce, they start getting the best out of what they have, and then eventually something breaks and they peak and they kind of fall.
Yeah.
But we're not even seeing the bounce, man. They've been shite like since it started. They haven't got off. Like, they had Waterford at home, and we've seen examples in the past where they've really put it up to teams that go to Corrigan Park. Like, they beat Clare in Corrigan Park a few years ago. They drew at Wexford. Like, they really have failed to get going.
Drew with Dublin as well.
Drew with Dublin, yeah, and they've never feared Dublin. So when I saw Dublin annihilate them in Croke Park in round one, it was okay. That's pretty tough. Like, so they need to get going. Jer says technically wrong. Carlow could catch Offaly even if Dublin win and Offaly beat Westmeath. So I don't know. I think I wouldn't know. I'm terrible at figuring out how the league table works and everything. I'm shocking bad at that. But I'm going to run through the rest of the results just chronologically from the weekend. So on Saturday, Division 4, Monaghan 319, Warwickshire 15 points, Longford 212, Lancashire 210. In Division 2, Kildare hammered Derry 225 to 17 points. And in Division 3, London beat Mayo 216 to 117. Those results were all also on the Saturday. Then today in Division 2, Donegal beat Kerry 514 to 316. Leitrim and Louth drew in Division 4, 13 points to 110. And then in Division 3, Wicklow battered Roscommon 419 to 213. Whereas Meath and Down and Cavan and Armagh and Laois and Carlow, they were all postponed. And the games were supposed to be today. And we're going to move now, guys. We're going to move to the start of the Camogie Leagues, which took place. I'm just going to run through Division 1's fixtures. First of all, we had the All-Ireland champions, Cork. They beat Waterford by 2 goals and 10 points to 8 points. This was in Páirc Uí Chaoimh. The back-to-back All-Ireland champions make a winning start to 2025. Look, the reality is, man, right now, Cork are the best team in Camogie, and I don't see that changing this year, and they're off to the winning start.
They're the best side in senior, and they're the best side in intermediate, let's be honest.
Yeah.
They've such unbelievable picks at both levels. It's actually kind of scandalous. It's actually kind of sad. You think, could you just give some of them to us? But no. Look, it's the most ideal start you want to the league. Not simple, but an 8-point win. Ciara O'Sullivan, Hannah Looney getting goals as well, which is good for them. Sorkin McCartan scored 5 points. That'll do them the world of confidence. And look, I don't. Maybe Galway at best I could see, or maybe Tip could pose a challenge. But after that, I think Cork will probably be firm favourites for 3 in a row this year. I don't see anyone like beating them. I could certainly see one of Galway or Tip coming close, but I don't see anyone beating them long term.
Yeah, no, neither do I. I think that they're too strong. The reality is that the players that they weren't even playing last season, the players that they had coming off the bench, then even players that are performing in the Ashburn Cup and in the college competitions, like Cork just have talent upon talent upon talent. And yeah, I certainly, especially a good start with a win over Waterford, who we know full well are stacked in the talent that they have with the likes of Beck Carton, Niamh Rocket, etc. So great start for Cork. Not a great start for Tip. Drawing at home to Dublin, 110 to 2-7 at the Rag in Thurles. Look, they would have eyed this one as a win. They would have wanted to win this game straightforward. For Dublin, it's actually a pretty good start to the league going away to Tip, who are actually currently the league champions, and drawing with them, getting something out of this game. We made it to the semi-finals last year. We've started the league with a draw against Tip. Like, there's no doubt the Camogie's on the up in Dublin. Like, it was baffling as well to say that the Camogie team, just in terms of form and history over the last 10 years, it was crazy that the Camogie team were the last one standing for Dublin last season. They made it to the semi-finals, but they're definitely on the rise, and this is a good start to the league for us.
Yeah, absolutely. I was very impressed with Dublin, seeing them in Croke Park last year against Kilkenny. They looked sharp, they looked quicker than them, and especially they shocked Kilkenny. There's no point. Mm-hmm. Look, the semi-final was a tough game, obviously, and you'd have been. I still thought it was a very good year for them, and Tipperary would be second, especially with conceding a late goal as well to draw the game. But look, I suppose at the end of the day as well, it is the first game. You're going to be trying to dust off, and yeah, look, for me, it's a point gained more than a point lost. I feel you're still going to have tough games, but I suppose the memo in sport is if you don't win, you don't lose. But even McCartney's late goal is brilliant for Dublin, and I suppose going away to the league champions. is great, and momentum just built from there.
And it's definitely a good start because we've got something on the board, and we're in with the Sharks this season, so we need what we can get. Kilkenny have started poorly as well, losing to Galway 13 points to 11 at the Dunmore training grounds to lose their opening game of the league. Look, I think Kilkenny honestly are heading for a period of rebuilding. Like, we've seen big players stepping away, like Miriam Walsh anymore, that were such key players. They've started this league with a defeat. I think Kilkenny they'd do a lot worse than to start to transition the squad now into the next generation, because I think the cycle is coming near towards the end for most of the crop that won the All-Irelands during the late 2010s.
Yeah, sort of similar to like the men's. They're trying to rebuild for the last couple of years and trying to, try new players and everything like that. And yeah, no, it's not an ideal start for them, especially at home as well. Or was that game in Galway or Kilkenny? I can't remember.
It was in Kilkenny.
I think Kilkenny, yeah, like that's never ideal. You want to be winning your home games in the league, especially. But no, again, you got to give credit to Galway. They're a very good side. They play some really, really nice hurling. They got some really, really good players. Carrie Dolan, Aisha O'Reilly are top. Trying to stop them on any day is not easy. So yeah, no, I think Colin Murray will be delighted with how his side has started. Again, a lot of tough games to come, but to get the opening 2 points on the board, especially, even though if it is a transition period for Kilkenny, to go away to Kilkenny at any stage and get a win is never a bad thing, and they're going to take a lot of positives out of it.
Yeah, they certainly will. I think you look at it that way. Galway, obviously, in the All-Ireland final last year, look, they just came up against the Cork team that was just tip-top form, and I don't think many teams would have beaten Cork in any era, to be honest. I'd be like, they really, really are the best right now, and they're heading in my opinion, they're heading into a period of dominance. Like that, I think they're only getting started. I think we could see 3, 4, 5 potentially in a row for Cork, because genuinely, I see Kilkenny going into a bit of a transition period. I see Tip making progress, but I don't know how quick that they can close the gap.
Yeah.
And it's kind of similar with Galway, that I can see players like Niamh Kilkenny, like Ailish O'Reilly, like the McGraths start to kind of maybe start moving away from it. And at that point, it's almost open season for Cork. So
yeah,
we need teams to step up and challenge them. Running through the rest of the games then from Camogie, which happened, just going to run through chronologically. These all happened on the Saturday holiday, all happened yesterday. So Division 1B, Wexford 14 points, Clare 2-9, Antrim 7 points, Antrim 2, Limerick 7 points, Antrim 2-10, long day. Westmeath 1-4, down to 11. Then in Division 2A, Meath 2-11, Armagh 7 points, Offaly 1-17, Kerry 11 points, another win for Offaly there. Carlow 13 points, Derry 1-13. And then Division 3A, Laois 3-11, Kildare 2-5. Louth 1-2, Wicklow 3-17, big win for Wicklow there. Tyrone 7 points, Roscommon 1-5. So that's the Camogie recapped, and we're going to move then to the final code, which took place over the weekend, which is round 4 of the little LGFA leagues. And the game which really stood out to me anyway was this game, a brilliant game between Armagh and Mayo at the Athletic Grounds. Armagh continue to win in the LGFA. They've now beaten the likes of Dublin. They've beaten the likes of Mayo. They've beaten the likes of Kerry away from home, who are, of course, the All-Ireland champions. And now they've beaten Mayo at the Athletic Grounds by 7 points. They really, really are looking the real deal. And, last season, in my opinion, winning the league, I had them as my favourites for the All-Ireland. I think there's an argument there that if Amy Mackin doesn't get injured, maybe they do. Can this finally be the year for Armagh to win the LGFA All-Ireland Senior Championship?
It can be, but it's always trying to get the first one there, or trying to get the first of a certain succession is always the toughest, and yeah, I was impressed with them last year, and especially, beating a good Mayo team is never a bad start, and they won it very convincingly as well. Like, let's be honest, Mayo, like, they got a couple of scores towards the end to make it look somewhat bit more competitive, but Armagh were very much full control and full worthy of their win as well. And yeah, I suppose, look, the men couldn't keep out their lead, but the women did. So I'm happy with that. But yeah, no, for Mayo, look, it's a disappointing result, but they are going up against a very, very tough side. There's no question about that. And yeah, no, for Armagh, I certainly think All Ireland is definitely on the cards. Won't be simple, especially up against the likes of a Dublin, Waterfords of these worlds. But no, it's still a positive result. And they'll march on very positively after this.
They certainly will. I think that the one thing that is absolutely unquestionable for me about this Armagh team is when you look at the hunger that they have. Like these girls like Amy Mackin, like Blahin Mackin, that are away playing in Australia and like the AFLW, and they come back to play for Armagh. Like they really believe like there's an All Ireland here to be won for them. And when you look at players like Caroline O'Hanlon, who's been playing now, I believe it's since 2004, like just the absolute sacrifice and dedication and the professionalism that they brought to this Armagh team. They're really, really good. And I was sold on them last season, winning the All-Ireland. I really thought they were going to do it. Amy Mackin then gets her injury. I really think that could have been theirs. Kerry are really, really good though, so they would have taken some beating in that All-Ireland series. But I definitely think if Armagh can keep all the pieces together, they're also going to take some stopping. And I think a rivalry between Armagh and Kerry, with Dublin potentially as a dark horse in third, I think we could really see a really exciting All-Ireland Senior LGFA Championship this season. Moving on then to the rest of the games. Tyrone lose to Kerry 1-7 to 4-5 in Tyrone GAA's Centre of Excellence. This definitely was a heavy enough defeat, conceding 4 goals. Bit of a mad scoreline, but Kerry nevertheless come out the right side of the result. Then Dublin beating Waterford 2-7 to 13 points in Parnell Park. Obviously, the noon management of Derek Murray and Paul Casey getting a good win there at home. And then Kildare with a very impressive victory away against Meath by 2-7 to 1-5 in Abbottstown.
Yeah, I think for Kerry, first of all, it's a great win, especially after, the seasons they've had over the last couple of years. To get in the league like this, especially away from home as well, is massive. For Daniel O'Leary getting 2 goals as well, just another Chris O'Jones, just loves scoring goals. I think for Tyrone, look, it's disappointing, but they are coming up against a very, very good Kerry side. There's no question about that. And like you said, they're going to start. I think they will build up some bit of a good rivalry with Armagh over the next couple of years, even without. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is Louise Nemo Hertig retired, or is she?
She is, yeah.
She retired, yeah. Like she's going to be a massive loss for Kerry, but they do have the players to replace her. Maybe not. In my opinion, maybe not as good, because she was terrific. Like she tore defenses apart last summer, but Kerry still have a lot of really, really talented players, and Tyrone certainly felt that today. For Dublin, I mean, look, a draw is not the worst result. I'm sure you'll be looking at thinking, is it a point dropped? Maybe, but Waterford are a decent side as well. So, but yeah, Katie Murray and then we're good as well. So yeah,
it's worrying enough though, because we've lost Armagh, we lost to Kildare, now we failed to win at home.
Especially, I think, with the way you bet Kildare last year, that one might be a small bit of a concern. Like I remember watching that game last year at home, and Kildare were just all over the shop at the back, especially. Dublin had that game won by half time. I can't remember what the score was, but I think they scored 5-6 goals in that game. Like it was outrageous, and it was in Kildare as well. So yeah, no, but look, again, a draw is not the worst result, but in the grand scheme of things, I suppose you'll want to start winning games sooner rather than later, because it becomes a habit. Then if you don't win games, then confidence might start to, I suppose, deem a bit lower in the group.
Yeah, it certainly would. I think, look, it's the post McBowen era. Like he was absolutely a beating heart of that whole Dublin squad. Like the players really had a good bond with him. I think inevitably when a manager like that leaves, you're going to enter a little bit of a rocky phase where results might not go that way. Hopefully it doesn't go the way David Moyes replacing Fergie went. Hopefully it's a bit more of a smoother transition. But that's an hour and 14 minutes in the books, guys. We tried to keep these episodes to an hour, but with the mountain of games that took place across the weekend, it was a little bit difficult. But Liam White, your debut on Unclear, thank you very much for jumping on. Can't wait to get you on for another episode. I really enjoyed that. Thank you, everyone, as well, that put in a comment. NRIB and TSB, Garrod Ogo-Grekon, the Kilkenny Junior, Gaelic Statsman, we have another one of him here as well, Sam McGowan, that was it, and Jack Nulty as well, guys. You helped make the episode a really good one. That is it for this week. We'll be back during the week with a weekend preview show, and then, of course, next weekend back here at 8 o'clock for another weekend review. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, what little of it there is left. Enjoy the week, and until the next one, take care.